Can you guys see me? Hi, can you hear me? See and hear? See and hear? Oh my god, first time chat. Sunken eyes. Hi. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, hi everybody. Good morning. I was fighting with a weird Zionist this morning. Question from Rob while we get started. What are some things you look for that immediately give this is CIA and not a people's revolution for current events? Well, the first thing you can always do if you really want to know is check out to see what the communists in that place say about it. And that's something a lot of people did for Nepal. And what they kind of found was that a lot of communists were like, well, we don't love our government, but who does? But this is kind of a weird scene going on around us and we don't fully trust it. So those kinds of things are really easy for you to tell. Obviously, if the United States is backing it, that's a sign you should look into it more. We are not backing organic people's revolutions anywhere for any reason. The only reason we would back anything is if we thought it was financially, materially advantageous to us. So that's something to be skeptical of as well. Iran, obviously, also, if you do a historical analysis, historically speaking, if the United States is supporting a revolution in Iran, we have done that historically, specifically to secure access to their oil, and it has been CIA backed and funded. So kind of you can look at the history of our intervention in a place and get a good idea. Obviously, we can't say for certain, except for the Mike Pompeo tweet was really damning. Mike Pompeo, I'm going to see if I can pull it up for anybody who didn't see it. It's wild. Hold on, and I'll show you guys once I have it up. Okay. Mike Pompeo tweeted this. The Iranian regime is in trouble. Bringing in mercenaries is its last best hope. Riots in dozens of cities. 47 years of regime. POTUS 47. Coincidence? He's basically saying 47 years of the regime being the people that overthrew the U.S.-backed Shah there. And then POTUS 47 being Donald Trump's the 47th president, right? Coincidence? What? What? Anyway, then he says, Happy New Year to every Iranian in the streets, also to every Mossad agent walking beside them. This was tweeted January 2nd. What? That's weird, right? Okay, you're looking for some light reading around USSR Article 121 and the centralization of the Soviets. Okay, let's see what we can find really fast. We're going to do this while we kind of figure out, wait for people to come in. No, the Kristi Noem speech, one of ours, all of yours? No. I should respond to my Twitter trolls on Steam. There's this one who is killing me. Okay, she started following me after she saw me get into a fight with the ACP. And what I realized is that, yeah, we can talk about that, Marish. I can also just freeform about that, but you said you wanted reading, so I'll kind of see if I can find something to read. So this chick, 172, thank you. Find it lesbian, thank you. So this one chick followed me from that, and I unfortunately got a lot of stupid followers from that because they hate the ACP, but they don't hate the ACP for the right reasons. They don't have enough knowledge to hate the ACP. So they're the kind of people who are like, ACP Stalinist. And you're like, girl, what? No, we hate them because they're weird fucking freak homophobes who bastardize Marx and hate artists and think that baristas don't do labor. What? What are you talking about Stalin? Why are you talking about Stalin right now? Okay, so I got some followers like that, and it was really weird when I was publicly beefing with the ACP. So they've started slowly outing themselves as being confused by my politics, right? So, new morning Madeline? Maybe, honestly. So, so basically, this person got really upset when I was talking about Ukraine, the United States staging a coup in Ukraine in 2014, right? And they were like, no, free Ukraine. And I'm like, look, babe, I'm going to live with you. The only way you can look at what I said and be mad about it is if you do not know what's been happening in Ukraine since 2014. Is there a chance you have no clue what the United States has been up to in Ukraine since 2014? And she was like, well, I don't have to know. I just know war is bad. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So you don't know what's been happening in Ukraine and Russia, and you've just decided everything Ukraine does is 100% right and perfect because war is bad? Is this your analysis? And she was like, yes. And now she has made it her mission to try to prove that I'm obsessed with Russia and I'm in love with Russia and I want to murder all Ukrainians or something. But she has no political knowledge whatsoever. So it's the wildest thing to watch happening. And when I say this chick is trolling me, I mean like all day, every day. And then we'll be like, why are you ignoring me? Why are you ignoring me? Why are you ignoring me? And I'm like, dude, at this point, I'm worried. Like, you don't have a job, right? Like, I check this thing for a couple hours in the beginning of the day, couple minutes in the beginning of the day, then I jump off. Like, if you're not talking to me in that window, I'm not seeing it. Like, it's not happening. She also didn't, like, know who I was. She was like, you're terminally online. Your job is an influencer. And I'm like, no, that's not my job. So I have these people who are, like, so mad about Ukraine and Russia. Like, mind you, they don't even know my opinions about Russia. They don't even know what I think about Russia. Just all over my Twitter nonstop. It's absolutely wild. Oh, hydrate. Yes. What's up, chat? Hi. Anyway, very, very funny. So, oh, Virgo. I agree with Virgo's recommendations. I just scrolled up and saw that. All of them are great. So, all right. Somebody wanted just some reading stuff. I'll show you guys my link tree really fast. This is from my link tree. I have a link to an entry level reading list. A lot of it is what Virgo said. Some of it isn't, but actually I kind of want to update my reading list anyway. So this is a good opportunity for me to do that really fast. So let's do it together. I'll show it in a second. One moment. Sorry, guys. All right, so this is my entry-level reading list. So I start with Principles of Communism, and then I say Killing Hope by William Blum, which Virgo also recommended, which I recommend definitely to give you just like a primer on how involved the United States is everywhere. Then I have this article, The CIA and the Media by Carl Bernstein, just to give you an idea of how domestic propaganda works. Then the Jakarta Method, classic, Vincent Bevins, to talk about anti-communism, how pervasive anti-communism is. And then on the relationship between fascism and capitalism, I also have Black Shirts and Reds by Parenti. And then to better understand capitalism and the type of capitalism we exist in today, I have Invisible Doctrine, The Secret History of Neoliberalism by George Monbiot and Peter Hutchinson. All of my fucking alarms, like, they're all going off. Oh, stretch. Oh, yay, Virgo. Awesome. You got so angry about the Bernstein article you got halfway through. I mean, it's pretty wild, right? Okay, we can just do shallow discussion if you want. Yeah. So what I wanted to add is I was thinking of adding in the Fascism, Liberalism, Sovietism piece by Gramsci in here. And there's another book I was thinking of reading too. Do you guys have any votes for what you think we should add to this? As an intro. I am secretly Joseph Stalin. That is true. I have not a link in here, but it's in my link tree. So if you go to Linktree, it's Angel. Hi, Angel. Not Hamburger. Angel. I remember. Hello, MJ Travis 2004. So, I have both of those, Big Cat Co. Oh, Black Skins, White Masks, isn't it? No, that's true. Let's put that somewhere. Should we put it under theory? Yeah, we can do that. Right? Let's put it after right to nation self-determination. That'll be good, right? I'm gonna get the proper title. And maybe we can find a link to it. You think Wretched of the Earth? Do you guys think Wretched of the Earth, or do you think Black Skins, White Masks? We're doing the PDF search. 225 pages. I kind of feel like Black Skins, White Masks. Capitalism, the ideal by Ayn Rand. Added. Child of the Reach is being the troll we need right now. Okay. We got this. Black Skin, White Mask, put on. Is it Black Skin? Skin, yeah. White Mask. Singular? Plural. Yes, I had it right. Okay. we're formatting it weird. Am I spelling Franz wrong? It is a Z. Oh, I knew it. I'm like, that doesn't look right. Okay, we got it there. All right, great. So that's added, and I feel like I am. Just been banned. Stop. Okay. What's next? Next, we're gonna do. I think that fascism, liberalism, Sovietism. And I'm pretty sure that was Gramsci that we were at. Yes, here we go. This is the one. I like this one. We'll put this in here. Critique. We'll put it after critique of the Gotha program. I feel like that's it. That's gonna be good. Try to give it a little flow. You know, I try to lesson plan it a little bit. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. I know, child of the reach. Dangerous. Okay. So I updated our reading list. So it's got some new stuff on there. We're doing well. We're doing all right. Okay. Mod Purge. Manifesto is on there. It's just later. And the reason is because I like Principles of Communism better. And it's basically a different version of the same text. So I put that one up front, and then I loaded Communist Manifesto down lower. So you'll see it in there. That's just my personal preference, though. Theory Book Club on Tuesdays? We could do something like that. That would be cute. You pay $40 a month. Okay. There's Book Club and Book Club channel. Oh, cool. Yay. The Discord. Yay. Okay, I love the Discord happening. Thank you, guys. I've never even been to it. I've never even been on Discord. I'm too 40 for that. I don't know how that works. I bet there's a lot of 40-year-old dudes on Discord, though. Just, like, with nefarious intentions, would be my guess. Hi, Ika. Okay. So, I'm going to pull up... I'm back in on Politico, guys. I think. We'll see. I'm going to pull up some news, and we're going to get back to current events, because we kind of did a deep dive on... Iran, I believe, and it took some time. Oh, I'm going to answer the question really fast, though, about Stalin basically reintroducing legislation that criminalized homosexuality. So, basically, when the communists came to power after the October Revolution, right, and there was an interim government, and then the communists emerged victorious, yay, and the USSR was formed. They originally just undid all the laws that had existed in the Tsarist past, and that included laws criminalizing homosexuality. So technically, the USSR decriminalized homosexuality, but it's not like they necessarily did it on purpose. And in the Stalin era, they reintroduced laws about homosexuality. So that, though, was... I'm going to pull up what year so I can be precise. When did Stalin recriminalize homosexuality? I want to get the exact year. 1933. Okay. So I want you to really think about the world in 1933. And I want you to ask yourself, what countries around the world were super progressive and friendly and welcoming to gay rights in 1933? Like, legitimate question. Socially, most of the world was not there. They were not there. And the USSR was among those, right? Now, when we read Engels, we read On the Family, right? We can see that Engels and Marx, being products of their times, they weren't like queer liberation now yet. But you can tell that they were already starting to think critically about the family structure in the United States, about monogamy, certainly, about queerness, right? Maybe not explicitly, but about the ideas of the nuclear family, about sexual preference, about monogamy, these kinds of things, about the nuclear family and like how that relates to capitalism. These things were all being discussed. So contemporary Marxist-Leninists today, unless you're in the ACP, can read that text and be like, pretty obviously this extends to queer liberation. Right? We can see that our understanding of the family unit has been so influenced by capitalism that what the family unit would look like in a socialist reality is far different. But in 1933, they weren't socially very progressive as it came to queer liberation. They were still trying to figure out how to solve the woman question, which is how do we get women out of the house and get women, not just chained to being baby makers and bread makers, right? How do we get them in the public sphere? So the idea of queer liberation really wasn't something at the forefront of their minds. And I think that the thing we know for certain, Germany had a big queer culture in the 20s and 30s, but it wasn't widely accepted. That's actually a really good point. And when I think about queer culture from this time, I think about Claude Cahun. You guys know, and I'm pretty sure she was a German artist, if I remember correctly. She and her partner. And they resisted the Nazis. I'll show you guys. This is Claude Cahun, photographer and sculptor. And I believe they were German. Oh, it was French. Okay, sorry. So when the Nazis invaded France, she and her partner, 1914, the 1920s, they were working, and they were pretty okay openly queer, but still, encountered a lot of persecution. And gay people obviously were very heavily targeted by the Nazis. They did a lot of active resistance against the Nazis, which was very, very brave of them at the time. So there obviously was queer history going on at this time, but it wasn't super socially accepted in the mainstream. So yeah, then that's good to add. I don't mean to say that gay people didn't exist and didn't have like vibrant movements and like whole worlds built around their communities. I mean, very obviously that's part of our history. Like they did. They paved the way for us, but it just wasn't something that countries were there on. They just weren't there. And what we know about social issues, things like women's rights, things like gay rights, is that they tend to develop once countries are more economically stable. And there have been studies on this, and I can try to pull some up. But basically, we find that social progress happens in tandem with economic stability and political stability and development. So if we look at a country and we say we want them to have gay rights, the number one thing we could do is fight for them to have economic and political stability, because all evidence shows us that naturally on their own from that point, they will start to develop, a movement towards gay rights. They will. They just will. We see that happening in China, right? Obviously, they're a lot more stable now. Gay rights progressing very, very quickly there. They have whole gay towns. They have neighborhoods, And meanwhile, though, like you look at the United States, technically we should have more advanced gay rights than we do, but we don't, because it's been used as a political tool of division by the owning class. Cuba, opposite end of that, actually a country that does a lot with very limited resources, and they even actually just put in their constitution for the first time, like 3 years ago now? When did Cuba, let me see when Cuba redone constitution. I'm like, what is time? How does time work? 2019. Oh my God, that was 2019. Okay. They did it in 2019. I'm like, I have no idea how years work. All right. But they actually did this great push to codify queer rights into their new constitution in 2019. And the way they did it is by investing resources in education. So one of the reasons why it takes political stability and economic stability to advance a culture on gay rights is because it takes resources to unlearn old biases and bigotry. And the resources have to be something that your culture realistically has to give in terms of time, in terms of manpower for education, and in terms of financial resources. It costs money to run an education program. So Cuba actually ran a massive education program. When they first started polling before their constitutional reform to see what % of Cubans were interested in adding gay rights to the Constitution, it was pretty low numbers. It would not have passed. But they did a massive educational outreach to teach people in Cuba about gay rights, about the fight for gay liberation, about what queer culture looked like. And, after the education, all of the Cuban people voted, because they got to vote on what changed in their constitution. They voted to codify queer rights in Cuba. And that was amazing. And obviously Cuba, again, a little unique because they are renowned for being able to do a lot with a little. Like, look at what they do with their healthcare system on so little resource-wise. It is very, very impressive. But I would say they are an exception rather than the rule, unfortunately. So when we look at the USSR in the 1930s, in 1933, their economy had not yet totally started to take off yet. We saw that happen later in the 30s. It started to get really, really good. But at that time, they were still struggling. They were dealing with Lenin's new economic policy had to be implemented in the 1920s, or new economic plan. I always forget what the P stands for, sorry. But basically because their economy had been struggling post-war, when the revolution happened, it's not like instantly the communists were in power and everything was hunky-dory. There were years. What the fuck is this one? Oh my God, you guys. I didn't turn it off and now it's getting worse. I'm so sorry. I have no idea what that was, but okay. Maybe I can recreate it. No, I don't know what did it. It'll happen when it wants to. I kind of like it now. It's a fun surprise. No, I didn't. I don't know. Okay, whatever. So, now I forgot what we were talking about. USSR, the economy. Okay. So, yes. So when the USSR won the war, there was this massive period the USSR didn't even win the war. Let me back up there. There was the revolution that happened, and then there was a power struggle, a little bit of a power struggle. So there's an interim government. And then when the communists, right, came to win the power struggle, then there was still massive civil war. It lasted years, and many people lost their lives. And we had these things called the White Armies, which are basically armies representing capitalists from all around the world who were trying to take down the Soviets, to destroy communism. So this is what was happening there. And by the 1920s, they were like, our economy is not cooking. And that's when Lenin was like back to the drawing board and really started studying Marx as it pertained to the transition from capitalism to communism. And that's when Lenin was like, fuck, we didn't even do capitalism. We had a revolution in a feudal state. So we got to introduce this thing, the new economic policy, new economic plan. I was trying with the NEP. And we have to do state capitalism because that's the first stage of socialism. And that's going to help us get there. We're going to speed run capitalism with socialist control. Yay. And see what can happen. So they were going through this period of transition and growth. So 1933, they were still coming off of that, right? Stalin was relatively new in a position of leadership in the USSR, and they weren't fully economically stable, though we will see in the 1930s later on they did get there. So this kind of regressive social policy comes out of one precedent, right? Gay rights were just not a hot issue for most countries around the globe. People were not talking about gay rights, which doesn't make it okay, right? But it just wasn't a thing in the cultural zeitgeist. Number two, they weren't super economically or politically stable at the time, and we tend to see that regressive social policies on things like gay rights coincide with that. Places that are more unstable, that's the last thing on their mind, right? Because in their head, think about it now, what 10% of the population in the United States says that they are gay in some capacity. Well, think about how closeted everybody had to be back, in the 1930s even. It's probably more than 10% right now today, and many people just still don't feel comfortable. But to them, the people who aren't gay, they're like, what is that? Like 0.2% of the population? Like, that's not a priority. Now we know, obviously, that's not correct. It is a large, significant portion of the population. And the political climate didn't feel safe for many people to live that way and live outward that way, right? And live that. So to them, though, they're like, this is hardly anybody. This isn't a priority, things of that nature. And they probably did still have some chauvinistic views of gayness, right? Built into the culture that they came from. And without a massive queer liberation education program, they were not going to combat that. They just weren't. So we look at the United States today, we haven't had a massive queer liberation program. We still struggle with gay rights. I think as queer Marxists, we can look at the USSR and be like, oh man, I wish they would have come out swinging and just been a gay utopia. That would have been awesome. Or a gay non-utopia because we're Marxists, but it would have been cool. And it's true. I would have loved to see the USSR be a lot more gay friendly. I would have loved that. I wish I could say that was the case, but it wasn't the case, just like it wasn't the case in like most countries around the world at that time, unfortunately. And I certainly can't hold the USSR to a higher standard than I'm holding these capitalist countries in the same breath. So that's it. That's kind of, my take on it. And I do think as a queer person, as a non-monogamous person, I love reading Engels on the Family. If you are a queer person who's interested in Marxism or a queer Marxist and you haven't read it yet, I think there's a lot that can be applied to our lives and our experiences from that text, even if it's not explicitly pro-gay, right? He was thinking about us, even when he didn't realize he was thinking about us. Yeah, I agree though. Yes, if the USSR was here today, of course, it would probably be legal to be gay. Yes. What about modern communist groups? This seems to be an issue in the UK still. Here in the United States, I've been involved in organizing work since 2001. I had never seen a socially conservative, anti-gay, communist or socialist party in my periphery until the ACP. That's the first time I've encountered that. And I was like, oh shit, when you guys said MAGA communism, you meant it. You tail-ended the MAGA crowd, right? In trying to recruit from the MAGA crowd. And I will say, when I first heard about MAGA communism, everybody rolled their eyes. I was like, wait a minute, let them cook. Because we do need to be recruiting from these ranks. We do need to be recruiting disaffected people who are so over the capitalist system and so slighted. They think a radical change like Donald Trump is going to save them. We all know Donald Trump's not a radical change. We know that, right? He's a billionaire rich guy. Like, he's some rich guy. All of our presidents have always been weirdo fucking rich guys on ego trips. What's different about him? How is he different than Reagan? How is he different than Nixon? Come on. But they felt like he was different. And to me, that was an opportunity. These people can reach class consciousness. They're frustrated. They're upset. They want something different. This is the option being presented to them most conveniently. So why not try to reach those people and radicalize them, right? So at first I was like, well, let ACP cook. Let's see what they do. And they didn't do anything, right? They tail-ended MAGA thought. Instead of trying to reach MAGA where they were and lead them and be unapologetically communist, right? They tried to chase them. And that's how ACP ended up with a lot of really, really regressive thoughts. So I'm not sure the specificity of it in the UK, but I would imagine that in recruiting, that is a thing that can happen. And you have to be really vigilant about that in your parties to make sure that you are not tail-ending the people you're trying to recruit from, that you're not changing your positions or your presentation to appeal to them more, because that's compromise on your values, right? That's compromise with liberalism. That's compromise with capitalism. You don't want to do it. Now, here in the United States, most of our socialist or communist orgs would be accused more of trying to tail end like the progressive Democrats here, right? Like our friendly capitalists, if you will. So it's more rare, I think, that our left-wing groups end up tailing our far-right fringe extremists who are very homophobic. But, you know, that was my experience with it. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Virgo, I think a lot of people are put off by the way communists address identity politics. It can sound like we don't care, but it's more of an understanding that increasing class consciousness breaks down identity issues naturally. This is so true. Yeah, origins of the family. I call it on the family. I'm so sorry. Origins of the family is what it is. I shorthand it. Yeah. Origins of the family. Exactly. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. I don't think that... Okay, so I don't think that it's like we're not allowed to critique these places for falling short on gay rights, but I am skeptical of people who bring them up as a gotcha without bringing them up in the context of global trends, right? If you're not comparing gay rights in communist countries or countries under communist leadership, depending on how pedantic you want to be, right, to gay rights in capitalist countries, I think there's usually a reason why, right? So, oh, hydrate, yes. Socialist Workers' Party is both Zionist and transphobic. Wow. Yeah, it's really, really wild. And there will be communists who do go too far on the anti-ID poll thing sometimes and think that means that we don't acknowledge anything having to do with identity. And these are usually younger communists, fresh communists, and this is not the case. Especially here in the United States, we have a huge history of what it means to be a black communist, a black Marxist here. CPUSA, when it was a bit more effective in its heyday, did great work based off of Lenin's right to self-determination for oppressed nations about the role that black communists, or not even black communists, that black Americans played as an oppressed nation in need of self-determination. So we actually here in the United States have had a pretty progressive relationship with identity and marginalization even through a communist lens. And the general takeaway is that like these things are used as tools by power structures to divide us, right? So if I'm a worker and I'm mad at my boss, for not paying me enough, and my boss says, well, I'd love to pay you more, white American worker, but the immigrants over here are the real problem because they'll do the job for less than minimum wage under the table. So you understand, I'm a businessman. Like, as long as that guy's going to do it cheaper, why would I pay you more? And then all of a sudden what's happened is your boss has switched accountability. It's not his fault. He's just following the free market, right? And the free market says that guy will do it for cheaper. So now your enemy's not your boss for not paying you more. It's the immigrant worker, right? For stealing your job, for stealing your wages. And so now, and our immigrants here in the United States, especially when we talk about these people, they tend to be brown. They tend to be people from Latin America, usually coming here because we've destroyed their countries, by the way, but that's conveniently left out of the narratives. And so that is how identity is actually weaponized by the capitalist owning class to turn us against each other. Now, all of a sudden, as a white American worker, your enemy isn't your boss. It's the brown immigrant who lives next door to you, who will do the job cheaper. And we've actually seen this happen a lot in labor issues. Like a lot of socialists and communists in the United States have actually written about how when they did labor union work, they had to combat these very xenophobic and even racist kind of ideas from labor unions, where they were like, well, we're a labor union. We're here to represent the workers, but not those workers, because they fuck us over, because they do the job for cheaper and blah, 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 right? So these things, though, what we recognize is that these marginalizations do affect your material reality, right? They affect your material conditions, and that's why we talk about them. So if you are a Latina woman or a black woman, like, sorry, you are going to make a lot less money than a white guy. That is going to affect your access to housing, to shelter. That is going to affect your material reality. So we have to talk about identity in these ways. But we also recognize that your identity alone doesn't mean that your politics are necessarily good. Like, look at fucking Condoleezza Rice. We also recognize that the power structure will weaponize identity to get you to agree with downright evil, fucked up shit that they want to do to harm people, right? So if they want gay people to agree with what we're doing in Israel, with Palestine, for example, us supporting Israel as they commit genocide in Palestine, what do? They'll go up and they'll be like, well, in Palestine, they kill gay people. And Israel, they have gay pride parades. So, and we see that and we're like, fuck you. That's bullshit, right? That's bullshit. We don't fucking buy into that. That's not a reason for us to support Israel. Israel's bombing everybody in Palestine. And guess what? That includes gay people. What? But that is how our identities are weaponized by power structures, by the capitalist class, to get us to try to support bad policies. So we see that. We know that necessarily just being of a marginalized identity doesn't say we have to trust you on politics, because sometimes gay people are bad people. Sometimes trans people are bad people. Sometimes people of color are bad people, right? And that happens regardless, and usually is influenced more by your relationship to the mode of production, to the capitalist running class, if that makes sense. Elite Capture is a book on my reading list. Yes, I'm explaining Elite Capture as a concept. I highly recommend you all read the book. David left it in my house once, and it's so funny because David always is leaving books for me to read, and I'm always like, fuck this book. Elite Capture, he didn't even leave for me to read. He just forgot it, and I read it and was like, this book's great. And he's like, you read the one I didn't even ask you to read. And I'm like, well, it is what it is. So it is on here. So definitely. So yeah, I think that's why people get confused about our takes on identity politics, though, right? Also, this is what I told the ECP when I was fighting with them. I was like, I'm sorry, if 10% of the fucking working class identifies as gay, you're gonna ostracize 1 in 10 people you're trying to recruit from right out of the gate? Like, what? Why? Right? You don't need... That's dumb. That's dumb as hell. And I also have the same opinion, when it comes to things like sex workers, like anti-sex worker rhetoric. Why? Lenin said that these are people that we should be recruiting, that we should be organizing with, right? This is what Lenin said. Why would you include anti-sex worker rhetoric in your politics when you're going to alienate people who have great revolutionary potential? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. So lumpen proletariat is basically this idea that, look, the proletariat as a defined class was very, very specific by Lenin and Marx, right? You were like an industrialized factory worker, basically. Like, it was really, really specific. Like, the peasants weren't necessarily considered the proletariat, right? So as Virgo said, yes, it's people who find non-traditional ways to perform labor. So it's not like you're a peasant. It's not like you're a factory worker. But you are still, poor, basically, right? It has nothing to do with your income. Also, you can have a wide range of income with all of these things, but you're doing things that society generally casts aside as unsavory, as seedy. So as Virgo said, you might be a drug dealer, a sex worker, you might do petty crime, you might be a beggar, things like that. And some Marxist writing is pretty chauvinistic about the lumpen proletariat. But like, one of the reasons we saw the Black Panther Party succeed out here in California in the 1960s is because they saw great revolutionary potential in the lumpen proletariat. They talked with and organized with local gangs, right? They talked with drug dealers. They organized with drug dealers. And I think that we, especially in the United States, where we are largely post-industrial, we don't have a lot of the traditional proletariat worker as Marx explained it. We don't have a lot of just like factory workers hanging around. And this is another reason why the ACP kind of fails. They have this very outdated 1950s idea of what an American worker is. They think it's like a white guy with an axe, or like a white guy in a Ford car manufacturing facility. They don't realize, and I'm sorry to say it, but it's because their leadership are professional influencers. That was their job. They come from an influencing background. I don't know if any of them have actually held a regular, normal job. When I asked once, I was told that one of the guys, Haas, worked in a warehouse briefly, but I don't even know for how long. So they have this very like disjointed idea of labor and what labor looks like in the United States today. And sorry, hydrate. It's just, that's not what labor looks like. So in the new landscape of what labor looks like in the United States, I think disregarding the lumpen proletariat is a big mistake. I think that's a big mistake. I think these are people with great revolutionary capacity and potential, and they're often very easy to radicalize. They already know the system's rigged against them. They already are able to see through, in the United States, our Republican Democrat bullshit, the liberals versus fascists. They're like, it's all bad. They're all doing the same policies that hurt us. They already are there. They have more of a relationship with class consciousness than the average American. So, yeah. The Has guy, yeah. He's harassing me all the time. My favorite example of the ACP being disconnected from labor is that when I was fighting with them, they spent maybe a week trying to get me to debate Haas. They were like, debate him. And I was like, I don't do online debates. Like, I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm not a professional content creator. I'm not a professional influencer. Like, that's kind of a waste of time to me. Like, I'm sorry. If it doesn't sound fun to me, I'm not going to do it. Live streaming is fun to me. And even then I was like, oh, this is so fun. And my partner's even like, yeah, that's like a hobby for you. You like it. You like talking to people about politics. But even then I had to find a way to monetize it for it to be worth it because of how many hours it takes to live stream. So for them to be like, debate Haas, I'm like, that doesn't sound fun to me. Why the fuck would I do that? And finally they were like, you have no excuse not to debate Haas. He does debates every single Thursday at 2 p.m. And I was like, Thursdays at 2 p.m. I'm at work. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm at work. And it was funny because at the time, Thursday was my warehouse assignment schedule day. So it was like, not only am I at work, I'm in a warehouse all day. Like, I'm throwing boxes around. I'm packing orders. Like, I'm at work. And they were so confused by that. Like, they did not understand. Like, no, I have a job. Like, lots of people with internet presences, we also have jobs. And no shade to people who don't. And this is their job and they're able to pull that off, or they're trying, or they're not able to find other work. But many of us do, because it's not a reliable source of income for a lot of us, right? Especially if you're left-wing politics. But they were so disconnected, it didn't even occur to them that I had a job, which I thought was very, very interesting. So, weird. Can you look back in your chat? Sorry, Heldon Auntie. What was I supposed to call you? Heldon, that's right. Sorry. About your longest message about Iran. Yeah, let me see if I can find it really fast. And then we'll get into the news, everybody. But I'm looking for Heldon. I keep saying everybody's username's wrong. I'm so sorry. Oh, here we go. I wanted to add something a lot of people miss on the history of Iran. The thing that led Mossadegh to nationalize the oil industry was the fact that the Anglo-Iranian oil company has agreed to pay a percentage of their profits to Iran, but Mossadegh thought they were lying, so he wanted to audit their books. They absolutely refused, so Iran nationalized the oil. Also, we give a lot of press to the coup, but also the embargo that Britain led against Iran did a lot of damage already. Yes, okay, this is great, actually. And this is something that when I make the short form content, maybe because I'm an American, this is Americentric, I kind of don't talk a lot about how much England and Britain fucked with Iran too. So I'm really glad that you brought that up and told me to read it out loud, because it is accurate. And one thing I tend to downplay sometimes, because I'm American, is that England was very fucking involved in Iran as well. I do casually mention like, well, it's the CIA and MI6, but it wasn't just like MI6 like thrown on the end. Like, England did, yes. Like, really, the United States showed up in a lot of ways to help England because we saw a profit opportunity for us. Yeah, thank you for that. That is good. And I do have a tendency to downplay or skip over too much of England's role in what happened in Iran. Yes, Malrich, the sun never set on the British Empire migrated to the United States. I did not see I did see the Black Panthers were in the news in Philly, actually. I think I did see that. It's so cool. And here in California, I know the Black Panthers, they still have a presence, and they've been rebuilding it. And the org I work with has a lot of crossover with the Black Panthers, which is really cool. What do I think about Midwestern Marx? I watched him a lot when I was first warming up to the left and helped a lot, but I know he gets a lot of criticism. So, okay. So I used to be mutuals with Eddie. That's his name. And he's an ACP guy now. And it's kind of a joke in the anti-ACP communist crowd where we all are just kind of like, Eddie seems like a nice guy who's just being taken on a ride by some grifters. Unlike the other two people who are the heads of that party, he does seem like an actual working class person with good perspective. And I also used to enjoy watching him talk about Marxism. And I think his original mission, Midwestern Marx even, of trying to make Marxism accessible to a class of people that is often forgotten in Marxist conversations in coastal regions, I thought that was charitable as well. Eddie and I have yelled at each other on Twitter a few times over the ACP. I do not fuck with the ACP. But I kind of feel the same way. A lot of us have mixed feelings about Eddie. We don't like the ACP. I'm not going to pretend like he's an angel. Like, I've seen their internal Discord chats. People leak them and send them to me all the time. Like, they all fucking hate me, Eddie included, right? They call me fucking bitch. They call me all sorts of shit. They said I made them look weak online once, and that's why they were so obsessed with me. I don't trying to, like, best me or something. I don't fucking know. They're weirdos. So I'm not going to pretend like he hasn't participated in that as well, because he has. But he does seem, to me, he's the least offensive out of the three, if that makes sense. The pizza lady. No, I'm not the pizza lady. What's the pizza lady? What's the pizza lady? Who's the pizza lady? Yeah, I don't know much about European politics, which is also why I downplay the Britain things. I was like, England was doing some fucked up shit there. The MI6 was there. We were conspiring. But yeah, I'm not as good with it. Yeah, if you look up gay on Midwestern Marx's Twitter, yeah, you'll see he's homophobic as well. As a point of contention, Anglo Oil Company also refused to train Iranians to be engineers for the refinery because they would ask for more salary and then be capable of running a refinery themselves. I didn't know that one. That's very, very interesting. Thank you. What an excellent contribution to first time chat. Do you guys hear Fork? Should we go see what she's mad about? It's just going to be a squirrel again, isn't it? We did this yesterday and it was just a squirrel. Who is the pizza lady? Who is the pizza lady? I don't even eat pizza. Oh, my Little Caesars. I don't even like pizza. Yeah, Fork barking. Bark, bark, bark. I don't own a pizza shop. I own a clothing company, but we do pay all the employees equally. Yes. So you got the important part right. You just got the goods or services wrong. So that's cool. ACP will always say that their stance is they don't care what people do, but at the same time they say a bunch of weird homophobic shit and seem obsessed with trans people. Oh, interesting, Child of the Reach. Homeless Kate says, fuck you. What? That's like a weird one. Usually I understand. I'm so sorry. Should I go check? I'm going to go check. We'll go check. We'll go see what she's dumb broad. Oh, I thought you were homeless Kate. I thought your name was Kate and you were abroad too. But you're homeless Skate? Your name's kind of girly pop. I'm not going to lie. I thought homeless Kate was abroad also. I was like, yeah, we are dumb broads, aren't we? No. Not Kate. When we untime out them, just call them Kate. Oh yeah, they think Hitler was a trans man and that's why he murdered everybody. What are we doing, Fork? There's nothing out there. It was definitely a squirrel. Wait, come here. Come on, come hang out with us. So you're not just yelling out the window. Come on. Come here. She's thinking about it. She's thinking about if she should answer. Homeless Kate is kind of... Homeless Kate. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if they're a good troll, they'll wait. That's so true, Virgo. Yeah, oh yeah, they have whole videos transvestigating Hitler. It's wild. Who's homeless Kate? Angel, you missed it. Okay. So, let's get into the news. Should we? Fork's done yelling. We've answered some easy questions. Two broads, maximizing our joint slay. It's how I feel when I like dress up like a girl. I'm like, hello, I'm doing a girl. Homeless Kate's the pizza lady. That makes sense. Okay. All right, let's see what's going on with the news, everybody. Let's get into our regularly scheduled content here. All right. My warehouse day got switched to tomorrow, so that's good. I have a little more flexibility. Let's see. We're assessing if anything interesting is happening in Politico. Yeah, doing a girl. All right, we've got why Powell isn't flinching at Trump's attack. This is about the Fed. It's a little less interesting to me right now. I feel like if I hear people talk about money right now, I'm going to like punch a hole in my wall, Kyle style, because I'm so mad. Oh, here we go. Child of the Reach. No, I didn't see this. MI6 was founded in 1909, but they denied it existed until 1990s? Really? Oh my God. It's wild. The only things I know about MI6 are the things David has done podcast bonus episodes on with the double agents who were MI6 and USSR, and they were all gay. Like Ken Philby and stuff. Very, very interesting. That one who was like, your mod just doesn't like me. And I was like, you're right. I know when people are like mad at me, and I'm like, I trust Virgo. What'd you do? electric vehicles are not in the Bible. This actually sounds like it would be a very good Halden. Like you accidentally just dropped like the British rap banger track of the year. Oat milk is not in the Bible. Video games are not in the Bible. Tofu is not in the Bible. Gender pronouns are not in the Bible. Right? Can't you see that being like a British rap song? I really feel like that would be it. Okay. So we're pursuing the news. We're perusing the news, rather. And pursuing it. And that wasn't... Oh, it wasn't? Madeline, British ally, confirmed. Okay, what do we got? No shortage of wealth. Mamdani, other Democrats chide New York City hospital executives over nurse strikes. Hoshel's new agenda blends Trump fighting with affordability. Gavin Newsom is sticking with the podcast formula that drove Democrats crazy. The Trump versus Newsom energy showdown is just getting started. That interests me. Does that interest you guys, or is that only interesting to me because I'm in California? What do we think? Why Iran is teetering at what Trump might do as our foreign policy take could be it. What I saw in Venezuela after Trump seized Maduro. That could be interesting to look at. It's going to take ICE a long time to dig out of this. These are more op-eds. 15 nurse strike in New York City. Okay, let's do the nurse strike as the domestics, maybe? If we do that, I can talk about Zoran. So for domestic, Virgo, let's do nurse strike or this editorial, this op-ed. I'm guessing it's a lib op-ed on ICE. Nurse strike. I think Virgo's going to do a proper poll for us. Virgo, also, I saw your DM, but I didn't open it because I'm really bad at opening DMs. But just so you know, I appreciate everything you do, and if you ever can't make it to our lives, that's totally fine. Nurses are striking. Okay, so poll. So vote in the poll, and then I'm going to come up with 2 options for our foreign policy talk as well today. While you guys vote amongst yourselves. Wait, Child of the Reach, you can always repeat yourself. When I miss things, that's totally fine. I don't mind. Bisco, which some unions in the United States, there are specifically laws about when they're able to strike and how. Like teachers unions here, I know there's like a lot of laws about at what point you're allowed to strike, what you have to go through first. Like we have very limited worker protections even in unions. Oh, most of what you know about MI6 actions is probably from our country, probably then, yeah, right? Other groups declassify documents. That's very, very interesting because they don't declassify things themselves. The thing that's interesting about the United States is the reason why CIA has to declassify so many things is because other government agencies hate them and don't trust them. And sometimes they fight with each other. Like the girls are fighting. Like one time this Congress person was like, I'm coming for the CIA in your budget. What the fuck are you doing? And then the CIA was like, we have a massive propaganda machine we call the Wurlitzer that we can turn on anybody at any moment to get them to believe whatever we want. Are you sure you want to mess with us? We will turn the Wurlitzer on you. And like other times, the DEA, our drug enforcement agency, would have been like planning to bust some drug traffickers coming in from Latin America to the United States for like years. They would catch and seize the airplane like full of drugs, and then they get a phone call and it'd be like, hey, yeah, CIA here. Let them go. And the DEA would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Let them go. This is like the biggest drug seizure in our history. And the CIA would be like, yeah. You're going to have to let them go, though. Turns out they're, like, working for the CIA, right? So, stuff like that all the time. Okay, nurse strike 1. Nurse strike 1. So that's why they have to declassify things, fun fact, because other government agencies hate them. All right. So, we're going to do this. All right, so we're going to start with the nurse strike, then. We're going to read this article, and we're going to discuss from a Marxist perspective. Yay. Do we think our yellow unions can become red unions through internal struggle and radical education? I'm not sure if unionization is the path for Americans to take, honestly. The thing I've been convinced of more and more that teenage Madeline would have hated is that the path to socialism for us is market socialism, which I hate market socialism as a concept, but I think it's what would work for us here in the United States. I'm not really sure if unions would ever be able to gain like the power necessary here in the United States. I don't know. It would be nice. Any of the things that are like not revolution necessarily, like unions gaining power, or like I always say, like I don't think you can vote your way out of capitalism, but I'd love to be proven wrong. That sounds easy. Like, oh, we just voted in. I don't think that's gonna work, but try to prove me wrong. Why not? What else are we fucking doing, right? That kind of stuff. I'm like, that would sound nice, but I don't know how realistic it is in the United States. But again, why not try? Why not try it all? Why not? Fuck it. So free rent for everybody. I'm in a generous mood. Okay. So, all right. No shortage of wealth. Mamdani and other Democrats chide New York City hospital executives over nurses' strike. The New York City mayor said this historic strike is about who deserves to benefit from the system. So he's hitting us with the Democratic Socialist talking points, right? And that's the thing. When we see in the United States people who are presented as Democratic Socialists, they usually can hit the talking points correct for domestic policy, but foreign policy is where they fumble. So Mamdani can be like, the workers in the hospitals deserve the profits, yay. And you're like, okay, yeah, that sounds like socialism 101, cool. But then he's like, Maduro's a dictator. Also, Israel's like not ideal, but like, what are you gonna do? It's fine. And you're like, oh shit, foreign policy's kicking your ass. And this is why we often say we don't actually have democratic socialists here in the United States, really. We have more social democrats, right? They want to maintain capitalism, but with a wider social safety net and a better distribution of resources internally within the country, but they don't really critique imperialism or foreign policy that much. So this is kind of what's going on. So we damn near nuked Yugoslavia over the market socialism when it was failing, but it would work here. I don't know. I think that it's the thing that would be what probably works in the United States the most, but that's speculation. It's pure speculation at this point. And again, I would have hated myself for saying that 10 years ago. I would have been like, fuck you. And as somebody who has a worker collective, right? I hate the free market. I think the free market is the bane of my existence. It is the source of all evils in the world. I want a centrally planned economy. That is what I want. I want it ASAP. The thing we have going for us is that we are past feudalism here, right? We're in a state of capitalism. We don't need a huge state capitalism period. So that's why I say the thing that would be the easiest transition period for us into socialism might be just market socialism at first, because we don't need a massive state capitalist period. But I don't know. Once I realized how fucking wrong I was about China, I learned a long time ago that I probably should not be leading a country. You want to give me a role in the vanguard? I'm like, high school teacher. We'll talk about history. Like, these are really my strong suits. But when it comes to policy decision, a lot of my more hardline stances ended up being things that were bad for countries in the past. So I softened my positions a lot when I saw things like the Dengist reforms working, things like the NEP working, things like that. Yep. So challenging. Free market is for psychopaths. It's fucked. Yeah, I feel like we would do a Dengist transition period probably, and that would work. I'm not saying that's what I love, but I'm saying that it sounds easy for us. But I would love to be proven wrong about that too, because I fucking hate the free market. So prove me wrong. I would love it. That would be great. So, all right. Oh, you guys, did you lose in the coup video? Did you get cooed in my coup video? Dengist transition. Deng just introduced market liberalization reforms in China. Dengist. Do I think it would be a fast transition? No, but it would probably be faster than countries that entered it in a feudalist stage, if I had to guess, in some ways. The alternative, though, is that because the United States is like the imperial core, it could actually be more institutions to move away from more slowly, etc. So you knew not to give up till you got nukes. You know this game. You know how it goes. Okay. Yeah, God forbid you feed your citizens. No, you got to build nukes. Yeah, exactly, Virgo. Perfect. Okay, so, Let's see. All right. Politicians are piling on criticism of New York City hospitals as executives scramble to weather a historic nurses strike. Nearly 15,000 nurses walked out Monday at some of the city's largest private hospitals, including Montefiore, we're doing Italian for the words I can't pronounce, Medical Center, and multiple New York Presbyterian and Mount Sinai Health Systems locations after months of stalled negotiations over pay raises, health insurance coverage, and understaffing penalties. The New York State Nurses Association and a host of influential political allies, including Mayor Zohran Mamdani, are laying the blame at hospital executives' feet. As the nurses lambast some of the city's most well-off hospitals for crying poverty, the strike is quickly becoming a proxy war for broader discontent over the U.S. healthcare system. Mamdani, who catapulted into City Hall on a platform of making New York City more affordable, said the strike raises fundamental questions about the benefit from the country's complicated, costly, and porous healthcare system. There is no shortage of wealth in the healthcare industry, especially so at the 3 privately operated hospital groups at which nurses are striking, Mamdani said Monday at the picket line outside New York Presbyterian's Upper Manhattan Hospital campus. But for too many of the 15,000 NYSNA nurses who are on strike, they are not able to make their ends meet. Mamdani's framing aligns with the union's strategy of focusing on hospital executives' 7- and 8-figure pay packages. So what, there's like a $10 million pay package? That's wild. Throughout its contract campaign. I'm like, are you a hyperlink? No, but we can look it up later. The union launched a website called New York City Hospital Greed, we'll look at that in a second, to highlight the substantial sums going to the hospital leaders, perfect, including Montefiore CEO Philip Ozua's $16.4 million compensation package from 2023, and projects like Mount Sinai's $100 million artificial intelligence center. Wow. They also, just a brief intervention, the AI in healthcare thing is a little concerning because we've actually seen algorithmic policing happen already, AI and policing happen already, and we have seen algorithmic kind of healthcare performance occurring prior to like AI as we think of it, like large language modeling, blah, 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 blah. And what we saw is it just compounded elements of racism and discrimination that already existed in our system. So it had this added issue though, where it kind of took the emotion out of it, made it impersonal, and made it look like objective fact. So that's actually really, really concerning because we're likely to see things like maternal death rates go up for Black mothers, things like that are just going to end up getting solidified and codified as though it is real and true rather than a political tendency based on discrimination in our past. Oh, we have a born racist troll? Oh, homeless Kate. Kate's back. Kate's a racist broad. We don't like her here. It's okay, Virgo. They have to at least be interesting to be worth it, you know? All right, speaking of racism. So, we were just talking about racism compounding in the healthcare system. Is it? Okay, perfect. So, confirmed. I am British and a New Yorker. The nurses' union endorsed Mamdani shortly after his Democratic primary win in June. Hospital representatives insist the union's demands would cost them billions of dollars over the next 3 years, which they cannot afford due to massive healthcare cuts in President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The federal tax and spending law will cost New York hospitals billions of dollars annually due to funding cuts and increases in uncompensated care for newly uninsured patients, according to industry lobbyists. I welcome the opportunity to sit down with Mayor Mamdani to discuss in detail the financial condition of New York's hospitals, including the severe federal cuts they're facing, Kenneth Rasky, president of the Greater New York Hospital Association, said in a statement. Hospital negotiators have invoked Trump's mega law as they rebuff the union's demands, arguing they can only afford increases of about $4,500 annually to nurses' total compensation, which includes health benefits. But the union's populist arguments have gained momentum since some of the same nurses went on strike in 2023. With Mamdani's upset victory in last year's mayoral race, affordability became the word of the year. New York's private healthcare CEOs pocket millions in salaries while our nurses on the front lines are overworked and underpaid. Oh, this is an AOC quote, whose district includes multiple Montefiore hospitals, wrote in a social media post last week. Our communities and nurses deserve better. Again, sounds very, Democratic Socialist vibes, right, on the domestic policy. And then we know AOC funds the Iron Dome. So what are you going to do? That dichotomy was underscored Monday during a union press conference down the block from the construction site of a new medical tower for New York Presbyterian. At an estimated $1.2 billion, the 16-story complex is one of the most expensive hospital projects in New York City in recent years, according to Cranes New York. The 3 health systems have already spent over $100 million to prepare for a strike by hiring temporary nurses, according to the Greater New York Hospital Association. Mount Sinai spokesperson said the health system so far has brought in 1,400 of them. In a report this week, they're scabs. In a report this week to bondholders, New York Presbyterian reported spending $60 million on preparations. The New York Presbyterian and Mount Sinai health systems are each sitting on billions of dollars in net assets, while Montefiore has hundreds of millions of dollars in net assets that can technically be used as leaders see fit, according to their most recent financial disclosures. So, okay, they have hundreds of millions of dollars in assets. They have billions of dollars in assets at these other two, and they're doing billion-dollar construction projects. So, if these hospitals have money to hire scabs, then they've got money and resources to address the needs of these nurses, State Attorney General Letitia James said during the press conference. Mamdani's predecessor took a comparatively milquetoast approach when the nurses at some of the same hospitals went on strike in 2023. Then Mayor Eric Adams called himself a strong supporter of our nurses and urged hospitals to do what's right to ensure these nurses get the just compensation that they deserve in 2 radio interviews. But unlike Mamdani, he refrained from directly criticizing the hospitals involved. That was then, when the COVID-19 pandemic and its images of overwhelmed hospitals were still a relatively recent memory. The current strike is unfolding as millions of Americans stand to lose low-cost health insurance due to Trump's Medicaid cuts and congressional Republicans' decision not to extend enhanced subsidies for the Affordable Care Act plans. Affordable health insurance coverage has been a key sticking point in the contract talks, with hospital negotiators pushing for cost-sharing increases and cuts to nurses' prescription drug benefits to reduce cost. I just want to add in here, too. Can you guys imagine if Obama had actually just done universal health care when he had a supermajority when he was first elected, like he campaigned on? Like, wild to think about. Literally, that man campaigned on universal health care, got elected with a super majority, which I don't think he thought would happen. I thought he would be able to be like, oh no, I can't do it because we didn't get all the votes. But he got all the votes. And then he was like, oh fuck, I can't actually give people free health care. So then he made this whole song and dance about how he's going to reach across the aisle and work with the Republicans because unity is what we need in this country right now. And then we got this bullshit ass Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, dumb fuck fake fucking policy for healthcare. What is that? Bullshit, right? Okay, so the union's benefits fund covers nearly 18,000 members and 22,000 dependents. That does not include Montefiore nurses who are covered by the health systems plan. Spokespeople for Montefiore, Mount Sinai, and New York Presbyterian said the union's demands are extreme and reckless in the face of the challenging realities of today's healthcare environment. But then it's like, why not just do it for show? Why not just cut your CEO's compensation packages to $120K a year? Then just to be like, we're putting in the old college try, because I'll tell you that I've managed a worker collective, and they're bad business years. Last year was a horrible year in business. We had to lay people off. It was awful. Nobody was able to accuse me of being greedy. You know why? Because we all earn the same pay, right? And I even didn't want to decide who got laid off. We did a vote on how to decide, and everyone elected me to make the decisions, which was horrible, and I hated doing that. So you know, it's like, this is the thing. It's pretty hard for people to accuse you of having all this money laying around if you're not giving your CEOs fucking $16 billion compensation packages, right? It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So at the very least, if you're like, we can't afford that, well, start somewhere, babe. Start hacking. Start hacking that CEO compensation package down to $120K a year. Let's see how it goes. Thank you, Rob. I thought so too. It was horrible. Okay. So if you don't like those accusations, you know, you got to do a little bit of shit for optics at the very least. New York Presbyterian laid off 2% of its workforce last year, or about 1,000 employees, due to current macroeconomic realities. The 3 health systems have not publicly shared their own estimates of the impact of the cuts, which will roll out over the next 3-year term of the nurses' eventual agreements. The Greater New York Hospital Association is working on a regional analysis of the cuts' impact, but a spokesperson said it is not yet complete. Union leaders argue that hospitals are cherry-picking numbers to make their demands look unreasonable. Mount Sinai, for example, has said its nurses earn $162,000 on average and take home an average of $250,000 by the 3rd year of the contract under the union's latest proposal. The current base pay for a nurse in Mount Sinai starts at just under $122 and increases based on title and years of experience, according to the union's recently expired contract. This union executive director, Pat Kane, said the cost of nurses' demands is driven in part by their own employers. Wait, is NYSNA, is that the... I have to double check. I thought this was the union name. Yes, it is the union name. Okay. So the union's executive director, Pat Kane, said the cost of the nurses' demands is driven in part by their employers. Hospital services are the leading driver of healthcare spending nationally due to the high price of care. And New York Presbyterian and Montefiore hospitals are among the most expensive in New York City. They're complaining about the cost of this healthcare plan when a lot of that money that they pay for the plan goes right back into their coffers, Kane says. It's ridiculous. Okay, so very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. The bot in the discourse, meanwhile, or in the Discord, sounds funny. All right, so this is interesting. So the first thing I want to say is that the Democratic Socialists, again, like we said, they're good at pretending to be socialists when it comes to domestic issues. When it comes to imperialism, though, they're not going to do anything. They're absolutely not going to do anything. It's also interesting how the healthcare providers are complaining that they can't afford to pay health insurance for their healthcare workers. Hell of a system we've built here. They're literally there, babes. Just give them the treatment for free. Like, what? Like, that is so wild. But this is the kind of very direct thinking that capitalism prevents. Rather than come up with a very clear-cut, efficient solution to a problem, like, I don't know, okay, everybody works at the hospitals and entitled to free healthcare at that hospital then. Like, you can't do that in a system of capitalism because you have to find the insurance company. Then you have to go through them. It's like you can't have easy solutions to things. And this is the downfall, right, of having a decentralized economy. You have to do everything in the least efficient and most complicated way possible. And that's how you end up with nurses going on strike, in part because they don't have reasonable healthcare access. They work at a hospital. It's wild to me. It's absolutely wild to me. Like they're there. Just do it. Just do what they need. Just give it to them. But you can't do that. It's not allowed, right? Hell of a system. Yeah, anarchy of the market. Exactly. It's just absolutely bonkers. So this is what's happening, obviously, domestically. We see Mamdani sticking up for labor. That's going to look good. That's going to look good with his constituents in New York City. They're going to like that. Let's take a look at this website they put together. New York Hospital Greed. This is sponsored by the union. New York Hospital Greed leaves patients in need. So what they're saying is greedy hospitals are investing in outrageous paydays for executives and in untested artificial intelligence and other technologies while putting quality patient care at risk. New York's nurses are demanding that hospital execs put patients over profits. According to 990 tax filings, the CEO of New York City's 3 major academic medical centers, also just wild, the CEO of the medical centers. I hate this country. I hate this country so much. Increased their total compensation, including salaries, benefits, and perks, by over 54% from 2020 to 2023. Can you imagine if you got a 54% raise from 2020 to 2023? I would be making over $100K a year at my job if that had happened. That's wild. Meanwhile, because normal people couldn't afford to spend money, most of us, like at our business, we had to vote to not even take inflation pay raises. Because normal people are tightening their spending. They're spending less money on things they don't need. They're spending more money on housing and food and healthcare because that's getting more and more and more expensive, which means they have less money available to spend on things that I sell, like clothes or, any other bullshit that's not the essentials to live, right? So very, very interesting. Life-changing money. Sweet Lady Sleeves, first time chat. Yes. Your husband has type 1 diabetes and your insurance just randomly stopped covering the insulin he uses. God, I'm so sorry. It's wild. Okay, so as hospitals were recovering financially from the COVID-19 pandemic, hospital CEOs accepted large increases to their pay. Montefiore's Dr. Ozawa saw his total compensation increase by more than 120% during this time. On average, these CEOs made nearly 12,000% more than the registered nurses who are on the front lines caring for patients. Now, New York City's hospitals are pushing back on their nurses who are demanding safe staffing, no more staff or service cuts that harm patient care, stronger health and safety and workplace violence protections, guardrails on the use of artificial intelligence in patient care, and fair wages and benefits to recruit and retain enough nurses for quality care. The union contracts are approximately 20,000 New York City nurses at 12 hospitals will expire on December 31st, 2025. That already happened. New York City hospitals can afford to invest in safe patient care. Okay, so the things I want to look at from here for us to talk about, I want to talk about AI in healthcare a little bit, if you guys are okay with that. And just in general, the rise in CEO compensation compared to worker wages. So if everybody's okay with that, I'm going to search for that for a second. So I won't be looking at the chat. Okay, I got some data pulled up for us now. All right. So, the first thing we can talk about is AI on healthcare. So this is just like a little blog post, right? They talk about how AI is poised to play an increasingly significant role in shaping the future for healthcare workers. But again, before we had AI, we had like predictive algorithms that were already being used in healthcare. And what a lot of nurses and doctors found in using the software basically in their hospitals or in their doctor's offices was that it was compounding really like racist ideas that doctors had been dealing with in the past. And you guys know, in the United States especially, there's a huge history of extreme racism and prejudice in our healthcare system. The maternal death rate is different for Black mothers versus white mothers. I'll pull that up as well, 1 second. Some doctors in the United States were literally taught in medical school that Black people don't feel as much pain because their skin is literally thicker. We've also found that people of color are less likely to get prescriptions for pain medicine when they are in pain. It's honestly pretty wild. Oh no. You just found something, but the graph is very low res. Let's see what else we can find. I'm going to try to find one that's higher resolution. Okay. So this is what, for example, our U.S. maternal death rates look like. This is Black mothers. Oh, this is Hispanic mothers. This is white mothers. And this is all. So as we can see, the maternal death rates for Black mothers are extremely high, egregiously high. In the United States, this only goes up to 2021. But these are the kinds of issues of racism in our healthcare industry that people are worried that things like AI and algorithmic kind of predictive models are going to compound. So this is like the type of issues we run into basically when we're talking about AI and its dangers. So the current issues that these people are saying are happening in the healthcare workforce, shortage of healthcare professionals, basically not enough people willing to do the job. Cuba obviously doesn't have this problem. We know that this can be accounted for if you have a centrally planned economy. Okay. Uneven distribution of healthcare resources. We also know this can be accommodated if you have a centrally planned economy. The differences between rural and urban healthcare. Rising healthcare costs. We also know that this can be accommodated if you have universal healthcare, which is found to save people money. And administrative burden, that is actually one of the reasons why it saves people money to switch to a free healthcare program is because it cuts down on administrative costs because you don't have to do so much administrative work going to multiple different insurance providers and going back and forth. So this is very, very interesting. Law enforcement also uses it. Yes. So this person said ICE uses it. Law enforcement has been using these predictive algorithmic models, even in local police departments going back for years now. So what they think is that AI can help streamline administrative tasks. I've never seen anybody say that AI is at a place where it can reliably do these kinds of things. Enhance diagnostic accuracy. I have seen AI once say like 2 + 2 = kiwi. I don't want it trying to diagnose my x-rays. Improving treatment planning and enabling telemedicine. And also, fun fact, not that it could see my x-rays anyway, because I do not have health insurance right now. Like many Americans, like we can't even afford health insurance. I make too much money to qualify for Medi-Cal. But I don't make enough money to comfortably able to afford $600 a month for my health insurance right now. Yes, first time chat, your mom's lovely. Facts, universal healthcare would help the economy, but politicians use propaganda to make the average person think it would be terrible for it. Exactly. So other issues that could come about with implementing AI in healthcare is job displacement, skill shift, over-reliance on it, and ethical concerns, obviously. The use of AI in healthcare raises ethical questions about data privacy, accountability, and the potential for algorithmic bias. And that's what we were talking about when we looked at, well, what do you do when you look at data that shows, that was the bad graph, but this, like, oh, Black mothers are more likely to die in childcare or in childbirth. Try to be normal about children being born. I'm working on it. I'm like, what words? What are the words? Childbirth. That's what they call it. Yeah, that's what they call it. Childbirth. Yeah. So you look at these issues with childbirth and like whatever bias is going on is certainly going to be compounded and turned into part of the AI process, right? And that's very, very concerning. So this is what's going on with AI. And this is what they're investing money in instead of investing money in workers. And this reminds me of when I was talking to Ming's takes on US versus China. If you follow him on TikTok, he does great videos talking about different issues from American and Chinese perspectives. And he responded to one of my videos about AI doing price fixing for landlords to help landlords make a lot of money price fixing their apartments. There's like this AI software they were all using. And he was like, it's so interesting hearing Americans talk about AI because in the United States, AI is used as a tool by your ruling class to harm you, right? To kill you, to harm you, to extract money from you. And here in China, we view it as an opportunity to help us labor less. And that's just because of their relationship, right? The mode of production being shifted. Thank you. First time chat. Vilda Linnea, watching from Sweden with free healthcare for Sorry for Us. Yeah. I mean, I was just raised never going to the doctor. And I went to Europe for the first time. I went to Spain. I fractured my ankle, possibly broke it, and it never even occurred to me to go to the doctor. I was just like, I'll wrap it, we'll be fine. And I bought like compression ankle wraps and just walked on it for a week, a broken ankle. And everybody in Europe thought I was out of my mind because I traveled to Malta after that and it was to England, and everyone was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, yeah, that's fine, it's totally fine, I'm American, we got this, we got it handled. And meanwhile, I've had friends who had friends to come stay with them from other countries who had like panic attacks about like, what if I get hurt while I'm in the United States? How does that work? It's very, very unreal. So very interesting. Okay, so AI and healthcare risks could exclude 5 billion people, according to the World Economic Forum. They say most artificial intelligence health systems are trained on data from high-income countries, leaving billions of people in the global south invisible in diagnostic models, risk assessments, and treatment algorithms. Without representative data, AI-powered models can misdiagnose or fail to recognize conditions in underrepresented populations, deepening global health inequalities rather than reducing them. Bridging the gap demands global cooperation by building diverse global health data sets, investing in local digital infrastructure, and creating fair governance frameworks that ensure AI health systems benefit all. So this is kind of their approach, right? They're like, it's going to deepen inequality. People are going to get misdiagnosed. I mean, obviously, I do not think AI is at a point right now where it could accurately diagnose anybody with anything. Doctors can barely do that, right? How many people get misdiagnosed by doctors? That's a real living person looking at what they're doing. It's very, very weird. When you lived in Arizona, Virgo, people went to the doctor in Mexico, so it was better and cheaper. Yeah, I've been one of those people where I'm like, it would make more sense for me to fly to China and because I want to go to China for my birthday this year, so I'm trying to save up for that. But it's hard because I have debt again. Full disclosure, I have debt again for the first time in my adult life since before I wrote my book. My book was all about me getting out of debt and like doing all these financial things. Now I'm back in debt, right where I started. So I'm like, maybe I should save up and go to China, and they have these places you can go in and get like full like blood work, CT scan, x-rays, everything. Just get like full diagnostic run, and it's like $100 or something like that in China with no insurance. And I'm like, that with a plane ticket would be cheaper than me going to one regular doctor's appointment in the United States. Debt again. I'm alive, just in debt. Ha 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 ha! Yay. Yeah, it's very interesting. My ex-partner, we used to drive to Mexico to do his dental work as well. Yeah. She does that for her work every couple years. Yeah. Our healthcare access is pretty wild. So I don't think building diverse global health data sets is an immediate concern. I don't think AI is going to be able to accurately diagnose us yet. American healthcare. Yeah. In Peru, you can see a doctor for $9.30. I did die in a car crash. So true. Book fast supernova. Yeah. So that's that article. Does anybody have any thoughts about the healthcare strike? Before we get into CEO pay, just to end it, we're just going to look at CEO pay numbers. They're going to be what you all think. Anybody else? Okay, we'll just take a look at this really fast. So this article is from 2024, so it's a bit outdated, but CEO pay declined in 2023, but it has still soared 1,085% since 1978, compared with a 24% rise in typical workers' pay. So there it all is, right? It says a grid up to 2021 of CEO to worker compensation ratio for the 350 largest publicly owned companies in the U.S. from 1965 to 2021. This is great if you're talking to older people in your life. tell them it's not like it used to be. It's not like it was in the 1960s. And they actually are pretty receptive to this. When you tell them like, oh, in the 1960s, the average CEO earned 20 times more than the average worker. Today, it's like 400 times more, right? They actually, when hearing that, they're like, oh, okay. So this is good agitprop rhetoric you can use. Because people who like the good old days, they think about the good old days. You're like, it's not like the good old days, babe. We're way up here now. We were way down here. Very, very interesting. Right? Right. So that's what's up. Remember that. Eep. Okay. So we're still dealing with hell. We're still dealing with capitalist hell. Not surprising for anybody, I'm sure. Now we're getting to our foreign policy issue we're going to talk about today. We have some options. We have what I saw in Venezuela after Trump seized Maduro. Locals sorting through the fallout. This is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how much bias goes into this, or why Iran is teetering at what Trump might do. These are both op-eds, so these are opinion pieces, and it'll be interesting to see the framing. Does anybody have any preference in which one of these that we might want to talk about today? Thank you for my hair accessories. Somebody made them for me when I did my book tour. They gave them to me. It's very, very nice. You have friends in the UK who didn't realize medical debt was a thing that existed. Yeah, a lot of Americans think that medical debt also doesn't count towards your credit score, but it does. It just depends. Some hospitals are nice and just don't report it. That's like a nice thing. Venezuela. Okay, first time chat. Ollie JPH says Venezuela. Iran. Yes, let's do a poll. Everybody do the poll. Do the poll. Do the poll. Do the poll while I check my phone. Do the poll while I check my phone. That's okay. It's a lot to keep up on if you're out of the loop. Oh, the person with a cat profile blocked me on TikTok. I just noticed that. I've never watched Hassan's content, but we are mutuals because one time a few years ago, the internet tried to make us hate each other, and we were both like, we're not fucking doing this. We don't have time for this bullshit. So I've never watched his content, though. I had never really been on Twitch, so like I'm new to Twitch now. And I haven't really watched too many people, basically, on here. It's neck and neck. Let's see. What are we? Oh, 50-50. Okay. Okay. We got a few more minutes left. A few more seconds. I love that Cat Chick blocked us. Blocked us. Not just me. You guys too. Just so you know, if I get blocked, you got blocked now. New to Twitch. Where's the poll? I think it's still up there. I don't know where it looks for you guys though. Oh my god, great. Malrish, that's good. Wow, great. Yeah, she blocked you on your non-existent TikTok account. Sorry, Violet Blossoms. Okay, Iran won narrowly. Okay, Iran, let's go. Now, for anybody who needs a little quick overview on Iran, Iran has oil. The United States wants it. We've been trying to get it since the 1930s. 1953, they democratically elected a prime minister who tried to nationalize their oil named Mossadegh. We overthrew him. And then we backed basically a king there who was really fucked up to the people until 1979. Iran had a revolution, ousted the United States, and then brought in a very conservative government in its place. Because the United States had basically tried to erase their culture completely. The person we put in power there was like, you have to wear Western clothes. Like, we have to do all these things to appease our Western overlords. So as a reaction against that, they brought in a more traditional government that was more culturally relevant to them. It became a theocracy. The theocracy is, maybe a little conservative by Western standards, but also I don't really feel the need to judge other people's cultures and what they want, etc. So that was under the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah died in 1989. A new Ayatollah was brought in place. Since then, Iran has had some probably Western-backed women's liberation movements trying to push for more like a freedom and presentation for women. Since 2022, it's been pretty successful. Women in Iran are like, yeah, we're not really forced to dress super conservatively or cover up like anymore. Like, it's kind of your choice. They don't really enforce any of the laws that much anymore. But the United States and Israel are now backing violent protest attempts that are like lighting mosques on fire with children inside of them and stuff. And stuff. In the name of, like, mostly from what I can tell, protecting women's rights in Iran to try to basically overthrow their government. And Donald Trump has tweeted that he's ready to go in Iran, basically guns a-blazing, do whatever it takes to back these protesters. And people in Iran are reporting that the protesters are backed by Israel. Israel, we know, hates Iran because Iran has been very anti-Israeli, very anti-Zionist forever. So that's kind of the primer. Yeah. Yes, Iran does. First time chat. Katja off duty. Iran has the highest female to male ratio of college students. Exactly. That is true. And there are some people who've also been posting like, I go to Iran, this is what it looks like. I just went there. I was just there. I lived there. And you can see it's not really what Westerners think. The myth we're being told by Westerners is that it's extremely horrible to women. But as we were talking about on my TikTok live earlier, the United States is extremely horrible to women. Like, the woman question, gender egalitarianism has not been perfectly achieved anywhere. And also, when the West says a place is horrible to women, what we're actually talking about is, can we apply Western cultural values to that country in a way that pleases us? So, for example, under the Western-backed Shah, king in the past, they literally forced women to wear Western clothing and made it so that they were not allowed to cover up if they wanted to, despite the fact that there's a Muslim majority there and many women would want to cover up if they had the option. We forced them to expose themselves, basically, in the name of Western values. So these kinds of things are also deeply, deeply racist and weird and xenophobic as well. So that's the backstory for anybody who didn't catch up. And we're going to look at this Politico op-ed now. So, why Iran is teetering at what Trump might do. Trump appears ready to take action against Iran over its protest crackdown. Now, just so you guys know, the protest crackdown, we're going to talk about some of the things the protesters have been doing. I'm going to pull up some stuff. Protesters in Iran, lit mosque on fire. Let's see what we have. Oh, okay, actually I have to show this. I want to show you guys an example of how it's covered in Western media. So protesters in Iran lit a mosque on fire with kids inside of it. Okay, that happened. But look at the news coverage. So YouTube videos are posting it, right? The video of it happening. But the news articles are like, Iran protests escalate as regime crackdown leaves more than 500 dead. Mass killings reported as security forces use live fire on Iran protesters. Iran protesters tell of brutal police response as the regime lashes out. Nobody's talking about the fact that these are not peaceful protesters, that these are violent protesters, right? So I think this is very, very interesting framing. So that's something I just wanted to point out while we look at this. And it is true that this happened, so I'm just trying to find a news report on it, but really, here, it's just videos. I'm so sorry, so we might have to watch a video. Okay, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear it. I usually can't hear it when I do this, so let's see. Iran! 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 Iran!
Should be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent. If you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. but we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination. We may get the internet going, if that's possible. We may speak to Elon, because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company. So we may speak to Elon Musk. And in fact, I'm going to call him as soon as I'm finished with you.
Okay, so that's the one thing we can find. That wasn't even the one where there were kids inside. They've lit a number of mosques on fire. One had some teenagers inside, and there was video footage posted online of people inside. So yeah, this is being framed very much in news, though, as though the violence is one-sided and it's Iran just willy-nilly attacking people, but this is not the case. So I want to take a few minutes to try to find some other examples of what people are reporting is happening in Iran that's not really being reported by news outlets. So talk amongst yourselves for a few. We'll do a stretch. Yes. And give me a second and I'll be back for a minute. Sorry, guys, still pulling stuff up for you. Thank you for waiting while I do this. Oh, counts videos. Okay, cool. Okay, got some stuff pulled up for us now to assess. I'm going to try to see if I can find this mosque fire teenagers really fast as one last thing. Maybe. Okay. Tell me if you can hear videos play in the background, because I'm trying not to have them play in the background, but they might, you know? All right. So, I do have this video. It was posted by the Tehran Times. So this is obviously from Iran. And they're reporting on it very, very differently than the West does, right? They're calling these rioters. And they're showing videos. These are children inside of a mosque. And multiple mosques, again, we know were set on fire. You know, they're throwing Molotov cocktails at children. This is the kind of stuff that they're dealing with there, right? Now, there's the Jerusalem Post saying, when Iranians appeal to Israel and America, inaction becomes a choice. So Israel is like, the Iranians need our help. They want us to go in there. Worth noting, Iran has always been an enemy of Israel. Okay? So this is highly suspicious that we're having op-eds like this. For nearly half a century, the Islamic Republic has taught Iranians that Israel and the United States were the source of their suffering. Death to America and death to Israel were pillars of a regime built on permanent confrontation with so-called Great Satan and Little Satan. Flags of the two countries have been painted on the ground in Tehran previously as a deliberate mark for people to trample on. But the voices of ordinary Iranians on the streets and the language of the regime are two different things. As the protests sweeping Iran have moved into their third week, with 2,000 people killed, according to one Iranian official on Tuesday, although real estimates say the number is much higher, that is actually not accurate. I just want to say people are not estimating 2,000 people are killed. Western media is reporting 500 people killed, and that seems like an over-exaggeration. But people have died. So I just want to say they are violent protests. The regime shows visible signs of strain. That entire worldview is collapsing in real time. This is also not the case. Across Iran, protesters are holding handwritten signs addressed not to the United Nations, not to European leaders, not to India or France, but to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump. So again, this is like highly suspicious. Like, what are you telling me? This would be like Americans going out en masse in the streets holding signs saying, North Korea, come liberate us. Can you imagine the average American doing that? Like, right? Like, this is very not likely. Streets are being renamed after Donald Trump. Come on. No. Video messages circulate on social media appealing directly to Israel and the United States for help. So this is very online. These are very handwritten signs in English. Remember what we say. If you see protest signs in English, those aren't for the people. Those are for you. Those are for you Americans, right? Here. So that's what's going on here. You expect us to believe these people who trample on the flags of our countries are now suddenly renaming their streets after us? Come on. Be absolutely for real. This is just not realistic at all. So, that message has been amplified by Iran's crown prince, Reza Pahlavi. He's part of the basically history of the monarchy there, that the United States, when we have taken over Iran, we've done it through the monarchy. We've backed the monarchs there and deposed basically the prime ministers and attempted to consolidate all the power under the monarchy with our backing. And they say that Reza Pahlavi has been directly addressing Trump in recent days. So I want to take a second really fast to show you something about what people in Iran actually have to say about this man. So let me find it really quickly for you. All right, so this is something that was posted on Twitter from media coming out.
پهلوی وقتی که تهران میدونن که ایران قبولش نمیکنن در مملکت بذارن بره دیگه سمت مملکت ما نیان چون کسی که این سگم مملکتمون انداختیم بیرون اجازه نمیدیم دیگه برگرده پهلوی وقتی که تهران میدونن.
Okay, bye Virgo. Thank you for everything. We're losing Virgo. Anyway, so people in Iran, meanwhile, are like talking to Reza Pahlavi directly. This guy, right, who has been talking to Donald Trump directly, and they're saying, we kicked your father out like a dog, we won't allow you to return, right, because they view them as symbols of the Western government. So the difference in how the United States and Israel is reporting on this compared to what's actually happening in Iran are very, very interesting. Meanwhile, we talked about this earlier. Mike Pompeo tweeted on January 2nd, Happy New Year to every Iranian in the street, also to every Mossad agent walking beside them. And yeah, we just really have this dual experience of what's actually going on in Iran versus what the Western world, including the Iranian diaspora, is reporting. So, and again, I want to say, not everybody loves the Ayatollah. Not everybody is like, this is the best government ever. We're obsessed with it. But it's not as evil as we've been told. It is, certainly. I also want to show just like, we have this idea that women are so oppressed that they're not allowed to leave the house uncovered in Iran. Again, people in Iran are like, that really has not been very enforced, especially since 2022. But like, you know, it's not really a major issue. We wouldn't like riot over that right now. Like things are way better. And a lot of the propaganda that we're seeing is actually like this video. Okay, so like, oh, very, is the sound okay on my microphone? I accidentally just slid it. I don't know where I put it at. Yeah, okay, we see a woman unveiling herself in a Fuck Khamenei shirt. She's in Europe. She's not in Iran. She's not in Iran. So that's the kind of stuff. This is the kind of content that's coming out of here. Iranians have more complicated opinions about this. Iranians do hate the United States. They may not love their government, but they certainly, and some of them do love their government. Also worth noting, some of them love their government. Some of them don't. Very, very normal relationship people have with their governments. Even the people who don't love their government, though, they're not out there being like, please, Israel, come take us over. That's absolutely ridiculous. But you can see Israel, the Jerusalem Post is posting, people in Iran want us to come take over. Haha, great, love. And meanwhile, here, Mike's a bit low. Okay. I'll turn it up. We can see people walking through Iran. Women are uncovered. It's a personal decision that they get to make now. So that's what's going on there. I want to take a look at this message from Halden. I read an academic article about Iran and anti-Semitism, and it basically pointed out that after the 1979 resolution, the Israeli government tried to get Iranian Jews to immigrate to Israel, and they didn't because anti-Iranian racism in Israel is so bad. Like, they were scared of persecution in Iran that didn't materialize, but they were nervous at the time, but they knew they would be persecuted in Israel for being Iranian. Yes. So when we know all of these things, and we come over here to the Jerusalem Post being like, they're begging us, Israel, to come liberate them. And they love the Shah and they're naming streets after Donald Trump. You're like, okay, well, this is a disconnect from what we're seeing actually happening there. Contrast between regime propaganda and Iran's reality. This is ironic, right? We also know Israel, the masters of Hezbollah, the masters of propaganda. They say that the Shah, the one that woman was like, we kicked your father out like a dog. We want to let you to return. He says that there's a contrast between regime propaganda and reality on the streets. That woman was on the streets. He says, well, Khamenei and his thugs call for death to America. The Iranian people are renaming streets after you, he told the U.S. news channel, Fox News. I wonder why he went on Fox News specifically also, right? Come on. They know you have their back and will not abandon them like Obama and Biden. Like, come on. If you can't clearly see this politicized to appeal to American Republicans, like, come on. This is wild. Oh, Vorlo raid. We got a raid? Yay. Oh, so nice. Hello, welcome, raiders. Welcome. We're talking about renaming streets after Donald Trump in Iran. He says, after the fall of this terrorist regime, they will be your best partner for peace and prosperity. Help them liberate themselves. Right? Calling for the United States to do regime change in Iran because the Shah, would get power again. Ooh, hi. Okay, we got some commies in the chat. I like it. All right, so then we have also from the Times of Israel, Iranian authorities say some 2,000 people killed in protests as news trickles out. Opposition aligned site claims 12,000 killed, far higher than any NGO or state estimates. Tehran defends the internet block. They put a block on the internet, which I think is smart to do because the United States has a track record of using social media websites to try to direct people towards these astroturfed kind of protests. We did this in Cuba. And yeah, this is what's going on here. So Israel is reporting the Iran International News site, which is based in UK. This is exactly what somebody else just said in here. Who said that? Somebody already talked about this. I missed it. But the person in the chat who said this, this is what they were talking about. As of Tuesday, estimates of the death toll really vary dramatically. The Norway-based organization Iran Human Rights said that it had confirmed 648 people killed during the protest, including 9 minors, but warned that the death toll was likely much higher, according to some estimates up to 6,000. That seems ridiculous. But maybe. The Iran International News site, which is based in the UK and is critical of the Islamic Republic, claimed at least 12,000 people had been killed in recent days, far beyond any other report. That's not credible. That's just ridiculous. In one report, opposition website said its killings were fully organized and carried out by the IRGC. That's what that troll with the cat profile on my TikTok today was like, you love the IRGC, you love the IRGC. I'm like, you don't even know what the IRGC is doing. On direct order of Supreme Leader Khamenei, these numbers are really touted up. Most even Western sources are saying 500 people have died, which is a lot of people. But that's from the West, and those are probably over-exaggerations at all. But again, Israel, their propaganda is even more extreme than ours. Their people are used to reading even more extreme propaganda than us, if you can imagine it. So this probably feels pretty realistic to them. Thousands and thousands of people. They probably are not questioning that whatsoever. So that's what's going on. Now, there's also this article that is also from a Jewish newspaper, Forward, and they said why protests in Iran seem surprisingly pro-Israel. I don't know, I was pretty surprised to see that too, right? Because Iran's not very pro-Israel. So what is going on there? And this author says that it's sparked by economic frustration. The United States, is worth noting, has been aggressively sanctioning Iran. So like every country affected by our sanctions, they have had economic issues. The demonstrations have quickly expanded to include broader grievances, particularly anger at Iran's foreign policy. Absolutely not true. Like what? Who is going to be storming the streets mad that your country doesn't love Israel? This is just ridiculous. One chant heard repeatedly in videos circulating from inside Iran says, "Neither Gaza nor for Lebanon. My life is only for Iran." That's wild. And especially if you know most Iranians understand that Israel is an extension of American imperialism there. They know what the United States did to their country. They oppose Israel as well. So this is total wild. We got 239 people. Okay, total number dead, also not saying who is killing who. Exactly. These protesters are not peaceful. They are violent. Again, they are lighting multiple churches on fire. They are violent. They have guns. They are out there on the streets with weapons. You can see images of this. So, the slogan this Jewish newspaper is saying, it's probably Zionist newspaper. I feel more comfortable calling it a Zionist newspaper than just a Jewish newspaper, but they say Jewish, independent, nonprofit. So that's why I'm saying that. The slogan refers to Iran's long-standing support for armed groups across the Middle East, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and militias in Iraq and Syria, where they have protected people in Iraq from us, by the way, which we talked about in a stream the other day. And they're saying that Iranians view that strategy as a drain on a collapsing economy. I think, again, most people in Iran understand that that is to make sure the West doesn't trample all over them. Right. So this is kind of what Israel is painting this as. Israel is painting this as they're so mad at their leaders for hating us. Now they just want to be us. And that's kind of that influence. And then we saw, of course, Mike Pompeo be like, they're, Mossad agents marching right alongside you guys out in Iran, like making like a weird fun time joke about it, which is fucking weird. So all of that in mind. And then, of course, Donald Trump's like, yeah, we're going to go help liberate them. We're going to help liberate them, right? Do we hate average American acts? Are they boring or are they okay? Who's the troll in the chat? Stretch. I'm going to have to jump off of this soon, so we'll read through this article and then I'll have to call it quits for the day. But let's get through it. Why Iran is teetering and what Trump might do. So now we know the difference between Western media. The United States is reporting it like everyone in Iran hates their leader. They're fed up. We must liberate their women. They want Donald Trump to save them. Donald Trump is like, we will save them. Israel is like, they're so mad at their government for hating us. They want their government to love us. That's why all of them love Israel so much. Yay. And then people in Iran are like, we have complicated and diverse feelings about our government because we are people and we are not monolith. We all know we definitely hate the United States and Israel, though. And we don't want that fucking Shah in power again. Fuck him. That's what's going on. Oh, fuck, I did the fireworks again. Oh, okay. So that's where we are. Oh, my light died. Oh. We'll do it without a light for the last few minutes. I'm in the dark. We'll make our computer screen bright to be the light. Okay. So, why Iran is teetering and what Trump might do. President Donald Trump has signaled in recent days that the U.S. is poised to take action against the Iranian government for its violent crackdown on widespread protests in the country. Fails to acknowledge that those protesters are violent as well, which has left more than 500 people dead and thousands jailed. In response, Iranian officials have privately suggested that the two countries work things out through diplomacy, though publicly, Tehran has warned it's prepared for war, according to the country's foreign minister. Relations between the Trump administration and Iran have been icy since the disintegration of nuclear negotiations and the U.S. bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities in June. But the current unrest in the country has the potential to tip that dynamic into a more active conflict. Here are 5 things to know about the situation in Iran as Trump weighs a potential response. What is going on? Iranian citizens took to the streets December 28th to protest the collapse of the Iranian rial amid soaring inflation and sky-high cost of living aggravated by steep U.S. sanctions. Okay, Politico did a good job at least pointing out the sanctions, right? Their economy is bad. Now, again, the idea that this is average Iranian citizens, we don't know. These seem like astroturfed protests. We know they are heavily backed by the United States and Israel, and also in the midst of the United States playing world police force over all of Latin America. It's just a little too weird. Mother Dyer, I have an Iranian friend posting about Reza and talking about saving the women from Islam. What do I say to her for not posting? I don't know that you can. I would say the most you could get away with is, oh, haha, if you're an American, Mother Dyer, I don't remember if you're American. I'm saying, like, I don't know that the United States is who I would trust to talk to me about women's liberation. Maybe. So, oh yeah, share screen. Sorry, guys. That's what I would say, maybe. But I don't even know if you can. Honestly, I'm not sure. So let's keep going on here. What started out as protests against dire economic conditions quickly spiraled into nationwide demonstrations, which protesters decrying festering corruption and political repression in the country itself and calling for the downfall of the Islamic Republic. Possibly. Okay. So we don't know. Again, we don't know how much of this was organic or how much of this is what's backed by the United States and, you know, Israel. By January 11th, protests had taken place in 585 locations spanning all 31 provinces of the country, including major cities like Shiraz and Tehran, according to the U.S.-based advocacy group Human Rights Activist News Agency. I cannot let us continue without looking this group up. It's an NGO. Let's do the test. The easy test first. If I can spell endowment, that helps. I just want to know. I just want to know who's paying these people. Not interested. That's China. Ron.org. Okay, so yeah. So this agency receives funding from the National Endowment for Democracy. We're finding multiple articles about this. Let's take a look. Human Rights. This is it? Human Rights Activist News Agency. This is it? Human Rights Activist News Agency. I don't think this one's it. Let's take a look. Okay, so this article from News Laundry, this is from the Gray Zone. So this is far left. So lots of people hate the Gray Zone, you know, whatever. Usually it's Zionists that hate the Gray Zone. They posted a few things that I'm like, that's a little weird, but usually they're fine and people just hate them for being Zionist. So Western media have primarily relied on death counts compiled by Iranian diaspora groups funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, the regime change arm of the U.S. government. That would make sense to me. And what is the Cradle Co? What is their source on this? Let's take a look. Okay, so, that group we were looking at with the bad website from the 1990s is part of it. They're the same. Human Rights Activist News Agency is a part of HRAI, which is Human Rights Activists in Iran. That's why we couldn't find it. They're just the news arm of it. Okay, so they are funded by National Endowment for Democracy. So let's take a look one more time. We're just going to figure it out. Yes, okay. Ned's own Facebook says that they give these people money. All right, so yeah, they are funding this. All right, according to their Ned's own Facebook. Okay, so basically, we're getting our reporting on this from CIA-funded regime change operations. Interesting. Those uprisings have been met with severe repression from government forces, with at least 554 confirmed deaths and more than 10,000 people arrested and imprisoned. The full numbers of casualties are not clear. The Iranian government enforced a sweeping nationwide internet blackout starting January 8th. I would do the same thing. Remember when we did our video, Could You Survive a Coup? That's something I would do. Significantly curtailing communications and coordination both within the country and outside of it. Information leaking out of the country likely only paints a partial picture of what's actually happening. Meanwhile, Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's toppled monarch, has sought to position himself as the leading contender to shepherd the country into a new democratic transition. But it's unclear how much support he has back home. He lives in the United States, by the way. This guy, the Shah, he lives in the United States, okay? So, pretty wild. Protest movements have repeatedly arisen within Iran over the years, and each time government forces have brutally shut them down. Yeah, because they're probably U.S.-backed. Let's see what else. They also have a massive water crisis going on, which is pretty bad. The president, Masoud Pezeshkian, warned in November that parts of the capital city of Tehran might have to be evacuated unless it rained. The government's troubles aren't just mounting at home. Iran's identity as regional power has been undercut in the past year. Its proxy forces Hamas and Hezbollah have taken a severe beating. Its regional ally Syria has fallen. Its nuclear program has been set back by U.S. strikes, and its air defenses were significantly weakened during last year's 12-day war with Israel. And Iran remains on edge as it awaits what it sees as an inevitable follow-up attack from Israel to finish the job on its nuclear facilities. So what has Trump said? If Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Again, we know these are not peaceful protesters. They have been lighting mosques on fire. They have been throwing Molotov cocktails at children. After his operation to remove Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro earlier this month, Trump appeared emboldened to take actions in other countries that he feels aren't capitulating to his demands. I mean, honestly, for a regular rag, that's true Politico. He's repeatedly warned Iran that attacks against protesters would bring repercussions from the United States. The Trump administration also touted its previous strike on Iran as an example of the type of military action it wants to do. Quick but demonstrative of U.S. might without lingering complications. Which, again, we don't know the complications, right? We don't know because, yeah, Ned has a Facebook, Ned has everything. So, yeah, this is what's going on, basically. On Monday, Trump used more tariffs, effective immediately. Any country doing business with Iran will pay a tariff of 25% of all business being done in the United States. And that's kind of what's going on. I think it's pretty obvious we're trying to do regime change in Iran. Big surprise. We just did regime change. We just started the process of doing regime change in Venezuela. The fact that Politico said that action was quick and decisive, we truly don't know because we don't know the aftermath of that action yet. And this is based on a long history of us doing the same. The fact that we are propping up the Shah, right, whose grandfather, I believe, father were both deposed from office, and that the Iranian people don't like and don't want in there, who is a symbol of U.S. meddling and interference in their country, is a pretty big sign that this is some bullshit. And also the idea that Iranian protesters would be naming streets after Donald Trump is just frankly the kind of bullshit only Israelis or Fox News like brain-rotted grandparents would believe is real. Like, who would fucking believe that is real? That sounds insane. It's not like that's not a thing. That's absolutely crazy, right? So they also keep calling them peaceful protesters, and this just conveniently happens right after we do a fucking airstrike on their nuclear capabilities. Come on, absolutely fucking ridiculous. So yeah, that's the situation. The updates in Iran. It's so late. I'm 24 minutes past where I was supposed to jump off, so I have to jump off stream. But think about some stuff you guys want to talk about tomorrow. Thanks for sticking around with me. Sorry, I'm just rushing out of here so quickly, but I just saw the time and I'm like, I have to go. Okay, so I love you all. See you tomorrow.